welcome to a new series that we're starting. We don't have a name, but what it's going to be is about 5 steps designed around how you can either, for this one, start your new year or build upon specific steps with investing, how to set a goal, etc. But let's dive into this one first. Prelude for all of it. If you don't have a financial planner, get one. If you do have one, make sure that you're doing these steps with them. All right.
Yeah. Let's start 2022 out on a good note, right?
There we go.
Find a planner.
Absolutely.
Very good. Get a planner.
Get a planner.
Get a planner.
And make sure they're cool.
we can. If you don't know the importance behind that, go back to episode 4 where we spoke with Cheryl Hickerson on the importance of, she's a CEO of Females in Finance and on the importance of hiring that professional and hiring that planner in your life. So
For sure. Great plug. So that's the prelude. But step one is go back to episode 5 and listen to it. You see how we're plugging?
It's a good one.
We're plugging ourselves. It's fine. Go back to step 1, episode 5, and look about what we were talking about, reflecting on what 21 was about, where your goals are, what you want to do and what you want to achieve, having fun before the holidays, and then getting into, 2022. Now that we've done that, and we've had that sit down, and we're thinking through exactly what we want to do, what's the next step that we need to get done?
next
It's a fun
steps.
one.
What's that?
It's a fun one.
Oh, yeah. Always a fun one. It's gathering those docs, that necessary information, so then you can dive through, whether that's bank statements, credit card statements, debit card statements, investment statements, any statement that you could possibly think of to kind of see a true picture of your budget and a true picture of your overall, financial well-being would be a term for that. Right. Gathering that necessary information and all those docs is crucial, and that's that step 2 is that you need to go out and do that.
And when you mean gather the docs, how would we be gathering them?
Well, step 1, going back to this, if you don't have a planner, you're going to have to do this on your own, and it's going to take some time. On another note, if you do have a planner, reach out to them. They're going to be able to do this for you. Most often than not, they have access to all your investment accounts, all your savings accounts. They probably have, or if you work with us, a nice website that shows your true budget throughout the year. So we'll be able to access those linked bank accounts that you have in that website and get you all that necessary information. Month to month, though. It can't just be one yearly snapshot. Make sure you're getting month to month so then you can get those good numbers and actually get down to the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I was going to say, well, you can use paper or you can use apps if you're already using them. It could be your bank app or it could be Mint or other budgeting apps that you have that kind of keep tabs on what you're doing year to year. But sometimes categories are allocated somewhere else, so you have to double check what you've got. But paper's good or an app.
Yeah.
That was a good plug with categories, and we talked about this just before we started here. Making sure that you are categorizing everything is just going to make life easier. Sometimes even when you're making purchases online, it'll let you go in and type in a little memo or something like that. Knowing your purchases, knowing those expenses, that's going to make life very, very easy for you.
So the data that we need is all 12 months, correct?
Absolutely.
So obviously, when this comes out, it'll be just January. So you can now go and get your January, February, all the way through December statements and really hone in on what your income and expenses came out to be, which flows really nicely into step 3, which is?
Let's compare.
Let's compare.
2021.
Right? So you've done all that hard work. It's going to take time. And something that we've talked about before is the emotional toll it will take to get that homework done, right? We call it homework, but here we're going to call it statements. You get that homework done. It's going to be emotional because you're going to go through all your good purchases and your bad purchases and your good expenses and bad and income all over the place. But ultimately what we need to do is we get to real numbers and what your average is per budgeted item, right? And step 3 is the fun one, right? We get to compare. So how would we compare once we get all that information? What are we comparing to?
Well, we're looking at this as you probably had some sort of financial goals or some sort of budget that you set for yourself in 2021. And we're comparing that estimated amount that we had as, January of 2021 that we set for ourselves, that estimated amount with those actual numbers. So what goals did we have after we reflected from 2020? Were we able to reach those goals? Were we able to reach those milestones? If we did and we surpassed them, great. If we didn't and we fell short, what do we need to do to change? What do we need to change in 2022? So getting that estimated amount, writing it down, obviously, is probably the most important thing. So making sure that you have that budget from 2021 written down somewhere is probably pretty crucial.
And I can tell you, thinking about my budget this last year, we had some unexpected expenses pop up. So I think it's good to kind of look at those, evaluate that, and make sure as you move forward for this next year, you may need to set aside some extra stuff, some extra money.
Yeah, I think it's
you never know what's going to pop up.
And that'll always happen.
That
right?
always happens.
It's not going to be.
Sometimes you forget to put something aside.
Absolutely. So you're going to be looking at your actual compared to what your budget was, right? Your budget items going into 21. Let's compare them to what we actually did in 21. And like you said, do the one thing of what happened, and actually take account to some of them. Those categories are going to look bad, right? But was that for a certain reason? Did something certain happen that year? It could be just an anomaly that we don't and you don't need to plan on going forward. Or it could be, well, that's another item that we're going to have to bump up no matter what as we go into step 4. And step 4 is making those adjustments, correct? So
yes.
We've compared, we've contrasted, we've looked at our goals, what we've achieved, what we've not achieved, where are we? Are we behind? Are we ahead? And now it's time to make that adjustment in our budget for 2022. What are some interesting or the best way to make those adjustments, right? So what's going to happen is, we'll use yours, for example, you had some unexpected things. You probably didn't have it budgeted, but now what is your thought process when you're creating in your 2022?
Yeah, I think so. I'll just give it was a home expense that was pretty substantial. We needed it. So I think in the future, we would be putting money monthly or a sum of money if we got maybe a bonus or a raise into a savings account that's ready for those kinds of things that pop up.
Yeah. So some sort of deployable emergency fund basically is what it's going to be.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
You can put it out there for whenever you need it.
And it doesn't, and you mentioned savings account, it doesn't necessarily just have to be in that savings account. And that's the importance of, I'll allude back to it as having a planner. It doesn't have to be in a savings account, but make sure it's in some sort of liquid account that we can have access to. Savings account getting basically no return for you, doing nothing for you besides holding that money in cash. We've seen inflation rise like crazy, so that planner is going to be like, okay, maybe let's put it into some other account that allows us to build a little bit of money, whether it's a small hit into that inflation, but build a little bit of money as we put those savings in there. So
make your money work for you always. It
Absolutely
needs to be working. So step 4, we're starting to implement it. We're starting to change. So now we can go in 2022. And that's how the first step should be, right? That's how we should start every year. You should always do this nice little exercise going into your future plans, which we will dive into specifically next episode of ours. Episode, I think technically will be 7, because this will be 6. I hope they don't label it that way. But they're going to be doing budgeting and diving into what you can do in the budget as well as down the road. We'll go into investments. But I think one of the most important steps of all this is still step 5, which is,
if you don't have a planner, get a planner. And if you do have a planner, make sure you're going through these steps with them. It's going to make your life so much easier. And that planner is probably prepping for this with a ton of their clients saying, okay, hey, you know what? We're probably going to do some sort of end of year reflection. And when we do that, we're going to pull all those statements. We're going to reconcile all those cards. We're going to categorize all of our expenses. And we're going to do this as a team, because that's what it really should be. It should be a relationship, a team effort, not just me saying, okay, you did this and this was bad. You did this was bad. It's not a pointing fingers. It's, hey, some things happened. Let's take responsibility, good or bad, and let's move on and let's make 2022 better.
Absolutely.
I think we can go back a little bit just to step 4. We talked about adjustments just real quick. Adjustments sometimes, in my eyes, I guess, can sound bad because it can sound like we missed the mark on something. But with that adjustment, we're talking adjustments from anywhere from, and we'll allude to this more in depth in a different episode, but your income could be rising. There could be good things that are making these adjustments saying, hey, 2022 is going to be a better year. Maybe you got a different job. Maybe you threw some of that money from that step one reflection into a savings account and got a jump start on 2022. So some of these adjustments are going to be very, very good adjustments. So don't always look at this as, this is going to be brutal. It's going to be a reflection, and all I'm going to look at is the negatives and dwell on negatives. This can be a very, very positive experience if you're working with a planner or if you've done the right things.
For sure. So that's how we start the year, right? Those are the steps that you need to achieve to get comfortable and go with it. Now, that being said, when we're doing this, it doesn't have to be January 1st or 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th. It could take you all of the first quarter to get
I would
this
grab
done.
a glass of wine
Yep.
with the docs.
Exactly.
Personally.
A little highlighter, and once you're done with the numbers, there's a fire over here. All of that to make you feel good. But this is how we get into it, and we roll into it. Stay tuned for episode 6 when we go into detail of budgeting.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.